Iowa.
In 1988, President Ronald Reagan first recognized May, the month of May, as National Foster Care Month. Every year since then, the month of May has been recognized as a time to bring awareness to the needs of America's young people who are placed in foster care. It's also important to recognize organizations in Iowa and around the country tirelessly serving kids and families in our foster care system. I salute these organizations and individuals for their year-round efforts to support the kids that are most in need. In 2021, there were nearly 400,000 kids in foster care. More than 4,000 of those 400,000 are in my home state of Iowa. Older youth in foster care and adults who experience foster care as a child can speak to what worked for them and what didn't work. They should have a seat at the table and a voice in making policy about foster care. When I founded the Senate Caucus on Foster Youth in 2009, the very special focus of the caucus was to hear directly from young people in foster care. We also wanted to hear from those who've been aged out of the system without having a permanent place to call home. Over and over again, I've heard an urgent point of view from these young people and also the teenagers who are in foster care. What I heard was that they would like some permanence. They would say it like they'd like to have a mom and dad. They'd like to have a family. They would want a place to call home instead of being shuffled around, maybe 2 or 3 different schools in 1 year, so which means 2 or 3 different foster homes in that year. All children, no matter of their circumstances, then deserve a permanent, loving home. They need consistent, caring adults in their lives. This year, during Foster Care Month, I want to give special recognition to families who answer the call to help vulnerable children and the teens in their communities. My resolution recognizing National Foster Care Month also marks May 31st as a very particular day to celebrate and show appreciation to foster parents. Throughout my years in the United States Senate, I've worked to keep families together. For example, I've expanded access to prevention services to help parents safely keep custody of their children during substance abuse treatment. The family, as we all know, is the bedrock of our society. So we must work to strengthen the family in the hopes of keeping vulnerable children out of foster care in the first place. At the same time, it's important that we support the very people that are taking care of these kids, the ones we call foster parents. They answer the call to take into their home children and teens who have experienced trauma in their very young lives. Foster parent, all of them deserve recognition and support. In Iowa, almost every county has a shortage of foster parents who are able to provide temporary home for these young people. Without volunteer foster parents, kids who cannot remain safely at home often end up sleeping in hotels or in offices of social workers. I've introduced a bipartisan bill called the Recruiting Families Using Data Act This legislation would improve how states recruit foster parents and help ensure that they're supported and actually heard. It would help states conduct targeted recruitment for specific areas of need and help kids get matched with the best family for their individual circumstances. We know that having at least one loving adult in the lives of these young people can meaningfully improve the academic, the social and environmental well-being of these kids. That positive experience lasts long into adulthood. When family reunification is not an option, and that ought to be the first option, we know that adoption can provide a permanent, loving home for a child in need. Recent data shows that adoption from foster care is declining, with 12,000 fewer children being adopted in 2021 than in 2019. Currently, more than 100,000 young people in foster care are waiting for adoption across our country, including more than 1,000 in my state of Iowa. By improving support for foster families, we can help increase adoption for kids who are placed in foster care. Moving forward, Congress must continue to work to find more solutions and secure better outcomes for youth in foster care. Whether the best choice is family reunification or adoption or living with the relatives, the goal is always and must be the same: to protect kids from neglect and from abuse, and to provide them with love and with support. I urge my colleagues to pass my resolution to recognize May as National Foster Care Month once again. I will continue to lead efforts with members of our bipartisan Senate caucus on foster youth to help these young Americans achieve their full potential and have a place to call home for the rest of their lives. I yield.
Mr. President.